at the end of the day, we launched the first DeFi crypto cards in the world. So here is, all the accounts. But if I click here, then you see the balance that I have, and then you can see the transactions. It's all inside of the app.
Awesome. So in terms of the fees, like how does that look like using this card?
$1 equals to fees.
السلام عليكم وحياكم الله إلى حلقة ثانية من بودكاست دينار أزرق. اليوم معنا ضيف جدا مميز، الرئيس التنفيذي لتانجم باي ماركوس نونيز. وماركوس عنده خبرة جدا كبيرة، مو بس مجال عملات الرقمية ولكن أيضا بالنظام التقليدي والنظام المالي بشكل عام. أي شيء له علاقة بالبنوك وطرق الدفع وهو متخصص بهذا المجال. سابقا كان رئيس تنفيذي أيضا لشركة ثانية اسمها تيا، واللي كانت تعامل بالمليارات، وأيضا كان يسوي استشارات للبنوك وشركات مثل فيزا وماستر كارد، أيضا كان يشتغل معاهم. فراح نتكلم معاه عن العديد من المواضيع، راح نناقشه على خبرته هذه كلها، وشنو النظام البنكي الحالي، وليش وشلون ممكن الكريبتو يكون مفيد بكل هذه الطرق المختلفة، وأيضا عن المشروع الجديد أو المنتج الجديد اللي راح تطلقه شركة تانجم، واللي هي إنهم راح يسمحوا لك إنك تستخدم المحفظة هذه عشان تدفع، وراح يصير الكرت هذا أيضا كأنه كرت فيزا تقدر تشبكهم وتستخدمه حق تنفيذ العمليات. بالإضافة إلى هذا كله أنا طلبت منهم أنهم يعطونا أيضا بعض الأمور اللي تفيد المجتمع، ورقم واحد عطونا ديسكاونت إضافي، خصم أعلى من اللي كان موجود بالسابق، حق اللي مهتم بشراء محافظ تانجم. تقدر اليوم تشتريها بخصم مو بس 10% الخصم العادي، ولكن فوقه خصم 20%، يعني تكلم على خصم 30%. بالإضافة إلى $10 من قيمة البيتكوين راح توصل لك بالمحفظة لما تشتريها استخدام اللينك اللي موجود بالديسكريبشن. بالإضافة إلى موضوع الكرت اللي مثل ما ذكرت لكم إياه راح يكون استخدام عشان تسوي العمليات والدفع. الحين تقدر تسجل اهتمامك، تختار الدولة اللي انت فيها وتحط ايميلك، لانهم حاليا بمرحلة ان اطلاق تدريجي حق المستخدمين، كل شوي يفتحون ويدخلون الخاصية هذه حق عدد مستخدمين أكبر. وشغلة أخيرة مهمة ومفيدة لكم، إنه راح يكون في giveaway، يعني راح يكون في طريقة تربح فيها المحفظة هذه بشكل مجاني. كل اللي تحتاج تسوي إن أنت تعلق، تضغط لايك على الفيديو، تشترك بالقناة على اليوتيوب، وتنضم إلى التلقرام مالي. وبعد أيام من لا تنزل هذه المقابلة راح أعلن عن شخصين يفوزون بمحفظة مجانية. بالنسبة لي المقابلة هذه كانت جدا ممتعة، أتمنى تحملوننا شوية أنها باللغة الإنجليزية، وأتمنى لكم مشاهدة ممتعة. All right, let's start this conversation and talk about a little bit of your background. Some people might have not seen you before on here, so I'd love to hear from you how you got involved with Tangem, what's your background in general, and what's your role at the moment.
Yes, so first of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. Super happy to talk about Tangem and the evolution of the Tangem products. My name is Marcos. Been in crypto for not so long as most would expect, but been in payments my entire life. And I've developed businesses in multiple geographies in the globe. And yeah, because I was so in depth in payment, I met Stefan George, which is the founder of Gnosis, and then I founded a product and a business together with him, and that's kind of how I entered this world. During that time, it was supposed to be a Tangem, a Gnosis, and the business where I was one of the CEOs, the co-CEO, called Taya. And the three of us would create the first DeFi payment account. And it turned out not to work at that time. This is early 2023. So we could have talked about this, 2 years ago, but it turned out not to be the time for both businesses. And then we decided to engage later together.
You mean in terms of technology, in terms of the regulations, or like just logistics of you guys working together?
Logistics of us working together. In fact, we tried to make a partnership together, and it was just not, like, we were in different levels of maturity. Taya was very large at that time.
What does
then
Taya do exactly?
Issuing and acquiring. So issue cards and help with terminals, payment terminals in the UK and in many countries in Europe.
Outside the crypto, it's not related
Completely out of crypto. And in
just
2022,
normal payments.
I investigated and I started seeing that we needed to evolve the back end. So Taya is a business that we grew from 0 to 10 billion valuation within 2 years. And from 0 to 2,500 employees and 14 geographies. It was very complex, lots of acquisitions. And what we realized is that we were just building another traditional payment with a great distribution. But the back end was exactly the same as any traditional payment. And when I met Stephen George during a trip that we accidentally met, he was talking to me about all the back end infrastructures they built in Gnosis, the ecosystem. And then I was, well, wait a second, this is similar to FX platform. Yes, it's just swap of digital assets and it works in this and this and this way. And then he talked about Safe as an account abstractor. So wait a second, this is just, ledgers in banking. And then I start talking to him, and then I realized, wait a second, actually, everything that you have developed, we have one-to-one in traditional banking. So how come we don't make this work? And then he was like, well, it's so complex, regulation and this and that. And when I started studying the regulation, it was in fact not complex at all. I think it needed someone that understands the language of the traditional world just to translate the same in the same terms that the regulator is used to listen. And it took me many meetings with FCA and FSAs and to explain how it works. But at the end of the day, we launched the first DeFi crypto card in the world, which was at that time Gnosis Pay. So I always, on the side, wanted to do this with Tangem, given, the story of Tangem being, a DeFi solution, like truly DeFi with the hardware wallet. And then how could we enable this together? And at one point, I sold my business to my partners in Gnosis, and I decided to join Tangem. And then I said, well, let me do this with you guys. It was actually very nice. It took nearly nothing time for us to marry and work on this plan together, which is essentially, if you think about it, Tangem created, so Tangem, a Swiss business, created a vault, and it's a safe, right? So imagine Switzerland in the 1800s. You needed to store money. You would go to Switzerland and you store money. And you get a key, and the manager of the bank remains with a key, and then those two keys will go into a box, and then you actually have access to your safe. Tangem is just the same 200 years later. And the only difference, he says, well, why should I give a key to a manager if it's my money, it's my finance, and I just want to access it. So that's my way of seeing Tangem. That was the way I was always in love with this idea, that you created the most secure environment to store, well, your wealth. And then the question is, what happens once your wealth is there? Like, what do I do next? You want to grow it and you want to spend it. And for me, those 2 points are the points that makes Tangem, the best banking solution from this moment onwards. Because now you can actually finance with Tangem, right?
I get that, and that's much bigger that many can realize at the moment. It's a huge thing if it actually develops into that. We'll talk more about Tangem, but first I think we want to go back a little bit into that part where you mentioned like you were working in traditional finance, traditional payment networks, and all of those things, and then you started getting or learning more about like how Gnosis and blockchain is getting used to do similar functions. So like I think we'd like to dig a little bit deeper on like
Definitely.
just how that how that experience was. And because to me like it's easier to do like to do the reverse, which you're doing now, which is like use the blockchain to do something that is simple and it's done before, because the blockchain is more transparent and easier to work with than the traditional finance system. So like from your perspective, like how did you see this in terms of like bridging these two together?
Let me give you a bit more context here. My job was a very lucky one, because it didn't exist any company in the world as the company that I was lucky to be part of, right? I was not the founder, I was part of the founding team. So essentially, Visa, MasterCard, in order to create interoperability, so making sure that a card that is issued in a country A operates in a country B, and the funds is extracted from country A and go all the way to country B, needs to guarantee interoperability of technology. So the technology here must function here seamlessly. And if this breaks, trust is broken. And if trust is broken, the entire network that they have created falls apart. So they start growing a lot, and then chip and PIN became mandatory in a lot of locations in the globe. Transaction, insert the card, put the PIN rather than swipe. And the company that I was part of was born with the objective. So a bunch of PhD guys from the Netherlands in physics, they were helping to certify that this payment on the issuing side, the card itself, if was configured correct, the chip, or if the terminal was configured correct for a card in Kuwaiti to transact in the US without, breaking apart. And there were only us and another company that was, very different than us, tiny. And this was a $2 million business year. And what we realized is that every business needed advice on how to implement this technology before going through the certification of interoperability. And by giving advice, we start learning about banking's backend, and not in one country or two countries, in all countries where MasterCard and Visa issue cards and terminals. And since MasterCard and Visa wouldn't lose time doing this, somebody had to do. And we went from $2 million to $150 million in revenue in 5 years, going all over the world, helping banks implementing this backends. And then with that knowledge, we went back to MasterCard and Visa and helped MasterCard and Visa develop the next generation of technologies and rules. And then I was board of EMVCO, part of EMVCO, which is basically the institution that regulates payments from MasterCard, Visa, Amex, Diners, JCB, and all payment networks. And then we became advisors of most large institutions in the world, finance, like it could be a bank, an issuer, acquirer, processor, gateway, PSP. So, and it was just a small group of us. So it became a very deep university on banking globally. And from there, you kind of learn that everywhere in the globe is exactly the same. The problems are exactly the same. Every country is the same. But every time you go to a country, they say, here, things are different. And what you realize after engaging is that, in fact, it's the same problem, but just different maturities. It's more mature in one side, less mature in another. So some markets are more concentrated, another market is less concentrated. You have more competition, so it's more granular. More granular means different players are taking care of different elements of the payment network or process. And what happened between that year and now is that you used to have something called the 5-party model: the cardholder, the bank, Visa, the acquirer, the one that gives the terminal, and the merchant, to make the cardholder spend in a shop and get the goods. Now you have 15 players, because you have, the gateway, the PSP, the party in between that provides XYZ services. So the Apple Pays, the Google Pays. So this entire world became so granular that people lost in translation. They don't understand, how backends work. If you work in the network, you work in the network. If you work in a bank, you work in a bank. If you work in a processor. So it's very isolated knowledge. There's no payment university. And so when you learn,
that's where you step in. You step in to clarify this to the
I learned this in 9 years, so in depth, that once I sat down with someone that pretty much founded Ethereum, because Stefan, George, and Martin, they were employees number 1 and number 2 from Consensus, and they were the first. Gnosis is the first node in Ethereum. So then when I sat together with those guys and I said, well, here's what we need to do different in payments in order to bring blockchain in, it was almost like a Lego game. Well, let's take this element and replace for this one, then take this one for this one. Then this is the thesis to the regulator. So the regulator understands that we're not doing anything different. So the funny story, now I can say this because hopefully it's been enough time, but when we launched Gnosis Pay in Paris in July 23, we did not have an approval from Visa, but Visa could not see it was a crypto transaction, and it did not see it was basically balance being removed from a stable account. We had a conversion to settle in fiat. So they authorize like a regular transaction, and then it converted from stable to fiat, and then we paid in fiat. So for them, it was just a fiat transaction. But the entire thing was on chain.
You understood the system so well that they couldn't figure out what you were doing.
And the funny thing is, we launched on stage and it hits the news all over. You can actually look for it, which is funny. But we were all over the world, in China, Japan, Indonesia. I haven't checked Kuwait, but I would assume probably the same because we were in TechCrunch. We were literally everywhere in the first DeFi card in the world, blah, 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 blah. That then next day we got a very urgent email from Visa saying that we did not have the permission to use crypto assets or digital assets with them without going through this certification process. And then they had 2 options: terminate us or partner with us. And then, well, the latter happened. They actually said, how did you guys do it? So then we became pretty close to them. And this is how the entire story started. But it was
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I end up learning so much about crypto because of this, one-to-one construction. And I am very knowledgeable in the traditional world, but I was not at all in the blockchain world. And now I consider myself in depth enough to be able to rebuild the world on chain rather than basically using the legacy. And the part that people don't understand the most is that banks. I'm always in the some people hate banks. I am actually the contrary. I think back in the days, it was great what they did to help, societies developed, the creation of bonds, funding governments.
Improvement, like having banks was a massive technological improvement and made, life and the flow of funds much easier so people can spend.
Yes. So we're just now in that peak that they are not relevant in the same way as they were 50 years ago. But people take time to understand this. And people meaning everyone in general, right? From the user, from the institution level, from the regulator level, because it's very difficult to teach a lot of people about, you are losing with this model. There are way better ways to, be more effective in the same model. If you want to fund businesses, then you rather want to do this in community level than, in this massive non-functional federal or, country level. But anyway, that's definitely a long conversation. But
but
I feel like
that's really interesting. Like, because as you mentioned, there's like 15 steps or 15 different parties maybe involved in this single transaction. So like, what was crypto invented to do? It was invented to get rid of middlemen. And of course, in any space where you have lots of middlemen, there's gonna be, many things going wrong and not getting the best deal for the end user in that case. But what was also interesting that you mentioned, go ahead, you wanted to say
no,
something?
I was just going to add one thing, Mohammed, just again for your audience to understand how crazy, right? Think about Apple Pay 2020, 2030. Let's extrapolate. Apple phone 2030. And I don't care if Google or Android, whatever, is better than the iPhone. Let's get out of this conversation. But that technology that we're in that can function. My phone of today can actually be available in 2030, probably at full capacity. Needs to talk to a system that was created in the 60s. Because mainframe was created in the 60s. The common language used inside of a banks is mainframe with COBOL. 94% of all global transactions in cards and payments are running on top of COBOL and in mainframe. You talking like an iPhone needs to talk to mainframe. So what happened per definition? An iPhone needs a translator, another translator, another translator, another translator that hits a processor, that hits the banking, that it needs another translator, that then hits the banking system and validates if you have the funds in the account. And that's the simple logic for people to understand why is it so difficult for banks to innovate. Because if they decide to go out of that, imagine that, the systems were not created with a bunch of people coding in a very, Amazon style. How do you push technology? It was, the guy that used to set up the screen, the computer, and the keyboard became probably the first CTO of the bank. And it's just the assembling the computers. And then he realized that they needed more than that to do, banking. So that is the complexity that you're kind of removing. So with blockchain, you kind of go from the iPhone to whatever in milliseconds. And you no longer need those complex ledgers and systems. But you cannot throw them in the trash. You still need to use them. And then the question is always, how do you create interoperability before you trash?
Exactly. So it's all about interoperability. That's the source of the issue. Why every country has the same issues is because they're required to follow the same standards and same rules. So of course it leads to the same results. I think we clearly explained the issue with the traditional financial system in all of this. And I think what would be more interesting is going to the crypto side and why to you that is the ideal solution, what areas of crypto or how does that fit in as the better option to go to? Just in simple terms for the listener who might not be too familiar with the tech.
So I am not the guy, if you ask me, oh, why is Bitcoin going down? Or is Ethereum better than Bitcoin? I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that looks at those things and say, people will have preferences. And, the question is, how do they get access to it? How do they store it? And the moment they don't want to have it anymore, how do they get rid of it and go into whatever new form they're interested? So I am that guy. I'm obsessed about, I hate the fact that we need 20 clicks to, buy crypto, store, and then if I want to bring to my bank account and the money, basically from my bank account, I bought Bitcoins, but when I tried to go back, suddenly I have like 150 questions and 6 months and, it's never enough.
And fees, lots of fees.
And risk, and everything is called risk, but the risk is I bought it from the same place that I want to drop it back. And then so why did I decide to do this is, number one, I was so familiar with how bad is banking systems all over the globe that my life fight is the inefficiency in the financial rails. And I can be the best friend of a banker. I can be the best friend of a crypto, founder, because I think both are not interested in having inefficiency. And to start from that point is, I think blockchain have solved a way to modernize the back end of a bank without creating a massive risk. Because you can start from a simple product. Yes.
Yeah, like you mentioned, crypto solved having a vault. Everything else is not fully built yet, you could say.
Correct. So I would say you have first...
If you would break down the bank into components, crypto solved some of them.
So let me explain all of them, even ID, because you can start like this. What are the elements inside of a bank? Number one is the account. So you must have an account. So think as a user, you have savings account, checking or spending account, you have your wealth account, you have your investment account, you have your insurance account, you have different types of accounts with a bank. And whatever products the bank sells you, he creates an account for it. And that's basically a place where it says plus, minus, in, out, and fees.
A ledger.
All right, a ledger. And then you go into the second point, which is, I call it the compliance kit. Who are you? Why are you here? Why are you in need of my services? And, bankers, they still have that thing. If you send an address, funny enough, and we're in 2025 with all technologies. I have technology here, technology in my pocket, technology in my ears, whatever. They still ask, what is your address? It's in neighborhood, fancy, I don't know, Mayfair, London. No worries. Just underwrite. No risk. What is your address? Is, I don't know, Afghanistan House 3. Oh my God, super risky. So it's still that very generic way of looking, because back in the days, that's how they looked. Depending on the neighborhood.
Like they have their own, based on intuition, or what is that based on?
Well, based on an old-fashioned monitoring of risk, because you were not serving a bunch of people, you were serving a very small, tiny group of people on a full society, because not everybody was banked. And you did not have to go further to serve. And now technology doesn't permit this anymore. It says you have to serve everyone. And then I don't know what to do. So the compliance kit, in my view, is blockchain register every single step of a user. It's traceable. If you tell me this is the account, I can tell you everything that happened with this account from its origin. So it's way more safe than a black box that sits inside of a plane that you can only have access whenever the plane crashes, right? Because, a ledger in a bank, everybody says they're auditors, they're reports, until, funny enough, it happened, I don't know, a week ago in Brazil. A bank called Master, the founder was arrested, and there were multiple frauds. You know what happened a year ago or 2 years ago? They won the compliance price in Brazil
Yeah.
as the most compliant bank in Brazil.
That's
How
crazy.
funny. And then 2 years later, they become, the hunt, like, let's hunt these guys. So you have the
Yeah.
compliance kit, which is now have to be upgraded to the on-chain level, because now you can trace transactions from all the accounts that we discussed earlier. And then you have the ins and outs. Let's call it the on and off ramps, or you have, fiat as one way of going in and out. You have different digital assets. Some people like Bitcoin, some people like Ethereum, some people like Solana, whatever. And that must come in and out. And with that, you can call it FX, and you can call it the in and out point, right? Because you have to convert. And then you have different kits like as the clearing of transactions, or lending products, or borrowing products, or yield products. So those are the pillars that kind of builds a bank foundation. And then some are good in XYZ, some are good in all, some are terrible in all. It doesn't matter. Why this makes sense, because when you actually look at crypto, we have developed every single one of those elements, but we never patch them together. And from 2023 onwards, you start now more companies kind of gluing them in a way that is becoming more, comparable with the traditional world. But there's still, my dad, which is Homer Simpson, cannot use it. He needs something very simple and seamless. So I think right now, everybody should be obsessed not in creating more stories around this, but patching those stories in a way that serves groups of tribes. And I think that's the step that we're missing at this moment.
I think that makes sense when, like, especially think about everything that got developed in the past few years. I think most of the tech that you need already exists. I think the main issue is just like user experience and like making it easy enough. Like even CZ talked about this a couple, I think, few years ago, where he was saying that this is the also Vitalik mentioned this. The most important issue in crypto is just making wallets easy, making wallets, less friction with the end user, and all of those things. So I agree with you in that area. And I think what I would like to hear from you is just like the phase we're in now, where we've seen all of this support start to come in terms of the regulators, in terms of institutional interest and all that, and also the massive interest in stable coins and the whole payment situation. So like, how do you look at these three areas in terms of like how are they affecting the current environment? What does that look in terms of where we're headed based on these three major forces that are starting to change now?
I don't think we need more regulation. I've proven this in 2023, and I can prove this now. We have already, everything that we're touching is already regulated. The thing is, if you want to operate in isolation, if you want to operate in a given society, you choose to serve Europe. There is enough regulation in Europe for you to fulfill with the existing products in crypto. The stable adoption, it was something very interesting, because the world spent a lot of money doing remittance, right? It always starts from a pain. What's the pain?
Yeah.
I live in the US. I want to send money to my family in Indonesia, and it cost me 10%, 9%, between having a check, going to someone that replaced that check for cash or in an account, and then that account sending to an account in Indonesia. You have correspondent bank, your receiver bank. It's crazy.
Yeah.
About 10% of the money goes away.
In terms of fees. It's slow and like takes a lot of effort from your side. and like
Exactly.
experience is not good. Like you don't feel
And
if it feels like you're begging them to send the money for you.
and that's what I was going to say. And it's really funny. I work hard for my money, and
Yeah,
some guy will come and say, "But I want to,
yeah,
I don't know if it's legit, so I'm
yeah,
going to
yeah,
charge you a little bit extra because I don't know if it's legit. So I'm taking the risk
yeah.
here," which is super funny. It's BS completely.
Yeah,
The
and
story,
a lot
right?
of other things like give me your passport, give me your address, what's the middle name of your mom, and I don't know what.
Exactly. No, no. And how many times did you jump, out of your bed this week? And like completely random
Exactly.
questions. So,
Yeah.
so what I see is that the guys from Bridge, and I met the founder of Bridge because of my previous business, Zach. He did something very funny, very simple. He created one API, and you kind of create a stable sandwich, which I think your audience is probably familiar with. So essentially, you have fiat in one point, and then it sends through digital asset or stable, and then when it gets to the other point, it becomes fiat again. And to me, this is crazy because it kind of solves the problem to reduce cost, but at the same time, like why not maintaining it stable? And then
Yeah.
modernizing the entire backend afterwards with stable accounts and so on and so forth. So I think it started from that angle. The proven success is crazy. Like the cost reduction is so massive in certain use cases. I can give you one from Brazil that I'm very familiar with. If I move money from Europe to Brazil, it costs me about 7%. If I move money using Monerium, Euro E, swap with whatever, Uniswap or CowSwap into USDC, USDC to BRLA, BRLA into my Brazilian account, even though it looks crazy amount of steps, is about 1 minute. It cost me about 25 bips, the entire thing. So
Yeah.
I go from 700 bips, 7%, to 25 bips, 0.25. And by the way, I can do that on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
Whereas
24/7.
correspondent banks will take weeks. So I think from this first use case of Bridge, and then the acquisition of Stripe, which is a serious, very important business that has, done a lot of great contribution to the payment world. I think the world started realizing, wait a second, there's something here, and then you can see the cost reduction of this cross-border money movement going down. Then lots of companies using that momentum to, modernize, and then you see things around payment with cards. Again, same story. You're modernizing the back end. So the stable itself became something interesting because of these use cases. It's very short wins where everybody's losing, because remember, you're having 15 players in between. Everybody needs a little bit. Whereas, the largest bank is also interested, to have the best offer and just giving directly to the customer. He wants to go back to that, two-party relationship. He just cannot. He needs the other 14 guys. But if he could,
Yeah.
he would definitely get rid of. So I think the stable adoption came from concrete use cases. Then the usage to get actually to the 8 billion people, then I totally agree with CZ or Vitalik or anyone that talks about, wallets being simple. And maybe one thing that I love about Tangem is exactly that point. You have no idea what crypto means. You get a card, you put it in the back of your phone that says, hey, you're a new user. What's your access code, or what do you want to have it as an access code? You put whatever word you want. You tap again, that becomes your access code. And
Yeah.
that's it. And then you start. So I think
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
everybody have that as mindset in wallet world, adoption becomes a lot faster.
I agree with you, and thank you for sharing all of these details. I think that's like very important to discuss. And I just have one final question before we talk a little bit more about Tangem Pay, which is like,
Yes.
I'm totally with you in terms of the problem, the solution. My question is like, what from the factors that are like happening now affecting this from actually, starting to take shape more into reality? Like, is it resistance from certain parties that are benefiting from the current system, or is it the tech not being fully ready to reach this like potential?
I'm very controversial. I don't believe in either A or B. It's not resistance, and it's not the tech itself. The tech is good as is, and there's always room for improvement. And you can say that it's still very complex, but I think the more the fintech guys put their hands on the blockchain tech, they will make it that tech more for dummies. And the more the blockchain guys decide to go into the banking, they're going to make those modern backends, much faster and much easier to migrate. But they need to, start playing with each other rather than, still playing separately. But why I don't believe it's neither A or B, I think it's just purely that thing, educational. When I see to talk to an old colleague, to a former customer, to someone that basically, been in traditional banking for like 20 years, and I say that I've transferred money from Brazil to, or from Europe to Brazil in 1 minute, they don't believe. And then you have to do it in front of them. And even though they see the 10 steps, whatever, right? Because it's for more sophisticated these days than less or new entrants. It's still amazing to see that it actually functions, that actually works. It's in the bank account of Brazil. I'm paying bills. It's all within, regulation. So what is definitely missing is we do not have sufficient knowledgeable people in this space. In this space, I don't mean in payments nor blockchain or banking or blockchain. I'm saying in the hybrid world. I think it's like
there aren't like
20 of us, 50.
Yeah, people with both sides of the experience to put the full picture out.
And it's very difficult. So one thing that I do as a hobby, I do consultancy like twice a month most, to bankers, normally C-level executives, just to teach them like is it truly possible to go from traditional to blockchain? And then I explain in simple terms how they can do it just with one product. Start with one product and take whatever, take a group of customers, call it your elite customers or whatever, select that group, and then we're going to make that group a stable card rather than fiat card. You're going to use on-chain ledger rather than traditional ledger. You're going to have authorization against on-chain ledger rather than having authorization against the processor. And it's really funny that they love the idea, but they just feel blocked from moving because they feel like, okay, if I do this one product, I don't necessarily know what to do next. And they cannot go in-house and hire, or talk
like
to
who can
someone
help them with this. It's not easy to find someone that can be trusted for such thing.
Yes. For the McKinseys and the banks out there, I strongly recommend you to learn both sides of the equation because it's going to be a massive amount of business for you in the next 5 years. A lot of people need this help.
Yeah. So just to summarize maybe what I understood from what you're saying is that number one, everything we need is already here in terms of the tech. Number two, there's no big regulatory issue affecting implementing this, and that it's easy. It's just missing awareness, let's say, and consideration by the people in charge. Because like me knowing this information is kind of useless. You want the guy who's running the thing knowing about it, right?
It's not even the consideration and awareness. It's more about the security. So think as a CEO of a bank as a 2-year lifespan. And normally, every 2 years you kind of switch. It's a very tough job. Sometimes 3 years, depends on the country, but it's normally a tough job. It's always under attack. So you don't want to do movements that is going to be, 5 years, because you're normally not going to be there to see the result of it. So there is already that political agenda that's very difficult to play with it. Then there's the second thing, which is you own the regulatory conversation in the market that you play. So you have a seat, you decide, who are these DeFi guys? They have nothing to do with the regular. But what they don't realize is through BIN sponsorship now, everyone can be a bank. The regulator won't call it a bank, but they are banking. It's account, payment, peer-to-peer transfer, FX, borrow, lending, yield. I mean, it's everything that you do as a bank. So if I basically have someone that can provide a BaaS, which is a bank as a service in a given region, I become a bank as Tangem.
Right.
Without having a
awesome.
banking license. So every company, every group of, whatever company that owns a group of individuals, thousands of it, millions of it, they can become a bank today. And once everybody started to realize that you can start moving on the horizontal level in the value chain. I give you an example. I spoke 2 weeks ago with a meat producer in Latam, very large. And he said, I don't do baking. I only do the meat side. I have 40,000 farmers selling meats to me, and I export to 80 countries. I said, okay, how do you pay them? Well, I pay after 30 days, they give me the cattle. I pay in fiat, or I pay them in their account, in the regular. I said, okay, why don't you pay them immediately after they give you the cattle? And the money sits in your ledger, and you give them a card that access that ledger, and you give them a access to the financial rail from that ledger. And then he stopped and he looked, but that's banking. I said, yeah. Why don't you become their bank? And then you realize that you can actually fund them, and you can realize that you can actually buy installments, you can pay installments, because you're controlling the money on their behalf.
Controlling the operation, the whole thing.
And the whole financial stream. And then he realized, and then he said, yeah, but I don't have a banking license. I said, well, you do have e-money license, you do have MTL license, you do have payment institution license. There are different licenses all over the world that you can have. So at the end of the day, the tech became so crazy efficient that the bankers didn't realize that anyone can be a bank. Anyone. It's just a matter of providing this via someone that owns a license, or applying for the license, which is way less complex, which is, the MiCA license or the e-money license. So I think it's not about that access, or it's the knowledge. They do not understand the level of the attack. They still think they have that regulatory arbitrage, and it's over. I can compete with a Brazilian bank without being in Brazil.
Yeah, so the tech made it like cheap and accessible. They just don't know about how to get that whole thing together. And like the deal is great, like, shaving off from 7% till 25 basis points. That's like how much? 90% reduction or something. That's like a huge margin. Like if they were aware about it, like I think this should be like the first major
The
point,
trigger.
to convince someone.
Yeah.
If you calculate like annually, people who do a lot of these things, how much are you paying in terms of fees, and how much lower this could be, you would be incentivizing them to try this kind of thing.
It's insane. I think the opportunity for bankers out there, hello bankers out there, the opportunity is, if you are able to modernize, I don't think people need to go away from you. I think people need to understand, first of all, I'm always about the choice. I want to stay with you because you offer great service, because you offer, the feeling of security, because you can give me great returns on my money, because whatever, but it needs to be a choice, first of all. And it's going to be about a choice in the future, no matter what, rather they like or not. So secondly, it is about understanding that if they are the first ones to implement, they have a competitive advantage. They have the license, they have the money, and they need to build an internal blockchain department, period. That will, slowly grow in.
By the time this starts to develop and get more popular, probably like the whole license process would need to be also made easier if this would have been proven that it benefits everyone.
It is already, Mohammed, it's so much easier to have a license these days. Like imagine back in the days, you only had the banking license. In Europe, you have the e-money license, the VASP license, the MiCA license now, and maybe take 1 year, maybe it takes 2 years, but you get it. If you're doing everything right, you will get it. If it's 12 months, 20 months, 24 months, it's nothing. That means you can compete with a bank with a license that is not a banking license. It's a banker license. A banker license takes, look at Revolut, took, 7 years. And VASP license and e-money license take 2 years, sometimes 12 months. And that's sufficient. So it's already there. All the ingredients are there. So rather they like or not, they are under attack. It's coming. And it's not a matter of when.
Like you mentioned, the whole competitive advantage aspect, someone's going to benefit from that because it's a easy win, easy way to get ahead of your competition. So I'm sure that will incentivize some people to get started and take this lead, and others will have to follow if they want to be in the business.
Completely agree. Yes. And the funny thing is, they must see a big guy doing before they kind of do it themselves. But the only difference at this time, and I think, is, do you understand? I don't personally, but do you understand how AI is going to impact human? I mean, like I can understand in the short term what I can see, right? It's more efficient. It will take some jobs away, blah, blah, blah. But the full impact of AI is going to be, it's very difficult to see, right? It's going to be very complex.
That was actually what I wanted to ask you next. I wanted to ask you like really quickly about this whole narrative that people are talking about, relating how the only option to implement and efficiently use and connect AI to the real world and do payments or whatever would be through like crypto like solutions. So you being someone that knows the traditional finance system and every component of it, would you agree that connecting an AI to a blockchain is this a realistic statement to make without knowing exactly how it's going to play out, but just in terms of the underlying tech? Quickly, we want to go to the next topic. I know this is really
300%, but 300%, because the whole point is you're creating payments, AI agent in payment agents. Sorry, AI payment agents, and those agents will be able to execute based on your behavior, and in order for you to access accounts and to create rules around those accounts, think about this in a smart contract. It's extremely easy, extremely straightforward.
You need programmable money in order to
programmability. So, and then when you go into the banking side, think about the compliance officer saying, wait a second, company AI payments wants to connect with our ledger. I need to call the risk department. The risk department will say, which company? Are they already certified to work with us? No, they're not. So they need to go through the certification program. Okay, call the IT guys. Let's run the cybersecurity certification program on this AI company to see if they are legit. And then who are the founders? Who are the it will take 2 years. And then there's like 100 others that needs to be connected to the bank. It's
and with the
that's an
blockchain
easy one to
solution,
see.
they can
It's
they can
it's
just build it.
composable. It's composable, and
Yeah.
then the user go and say, "I authorize."
Mhm.
1 second.
Awesome.
You know, the one
Yeah,
thing
I
that I
think
always
that's.
mention,
Mhm.
maybe just a quick thing. There's something in Europe that was a huge topic in 2018, 17. It's called open banking. Every user or every household should be able to migrate funds from bank A to bank B, and everything related to that customer should go from bank A to bank B, so he can have good offers as much as he would get from his first bank. So I've been banking with, I don't know, Barclays for 5 years, and if I go to Revolut should be able to know all my data because it's mine, and should be able to give me a good offer. You know when open banking was taken serious? Never. But it was a rule
It's
everybody had to implement,
their system
right?
can't handle it.
So it never happened. The funny thing is, if I have an on-chain account and I give you access to or I give you my address, hey, this is my wallet. Anyone that wants to provide services to me can read what happened to the finance of that wallet from day one. So that means within seconds,
Everyone.
everybody can know who I am from that wallet
Yeah.
point of view. If I am able to demonstrate that wallet belongs to me, which is a much easier step, I can basically get the best open banking offer in the market. So, like the biggest open banking solution is called crypto.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a great explanation, and I think the issue is clear, the problem is real, and the solution seems obvious. So let's just talk a little bit more about what you guys are working on, and that's Tangem Pay. So that's an exciting
Yes,
new announcement that you guys made. And Tangem Pay is a non-custodial payment account. That
yes,
is important to highlight.
yes.
Non-custodial means it's not, there's no central authority that's like really responsible for this whole thing working. And I want you to explain to us just in the beginning, like a little bit more about that. How, because this is different than the existing solutions of other Visa cards that you can pay with and stuff, which are not non-custodial, as many of them seem. So just give us the background and the breakdown of like how is Tangent Pay able to be different like this, and a bit about Tangent Pay in general in the beginning, just to introduce it to people.
Yes. So maybe visually, this is Tangem Pay. So it's in fact a Visa card sitting now in an iPhone, but also Androids. And funny enough, if you look at this card, the way we have deployed in this phone, it's not much different than Revolut deploying a card in a phone. In fact, I could argue is exactly the same. And we probably use similar parties to do this process. So what makes us special? Then I need to go back into that. And by the way, and I want to abstract Tangem out of this. What makes this industry special? Because I think this is the great part of it. And then why I believe in Tangem. Obviously, I'm totally biased, but I have multiple reasons to explain. But imagine that you go back into the vault. I have the keys to my vault, so the money is mine. Nobody else has the keys, so I'm the only one that owns the access to it. It's all myself. Tangem created the simplest way for people to have a vault, or the most secure vault, which is hardware wallet. If you know a little or a lot, and if you have a little money or a lot, it functions for both. It's easy to use, easy to set up. So the DNA of Tangem was always removing complexity and trying to create this simplicity. The problem when I came in that I wanted to solve was not this to be the first DeFi card in the world, because that was already resolved. But we have million customers holding hardware wallet. These customers have funds inside of their hardware wallet. And whenever they want to spend that fund, they need to go through a very terrible process. And they need to KYC with an institution. And then that institution will say, where did you make that money? Prove that you bought that crypto in whatever date or time. And they don't believe it. They don't understand it. They want to put fees on top of it. It becomes very difficult. And the user is willing to spend because a lot of them made money on the trading assets, and they just think, okay, instead of making 30% on this money, I made 20. Who cares? Pay a bit of fee, and at least I made 20% of it. So the mentality is not that it's an absurd. The mentality is like, I spend it, so why not? I made a lot of money on this, so why not? And I wanted to kill that. I want to go from one click storage to payment. I want to go from one click from storage to invest. And regardless of what the person believes and what they want to invest, if they want to be super risky, if they don't want to be risky, it's not up to us. Our job is to ensure that our customers can go from point A to point B, point A to point C, in one simple click, in two simple clicks, in the same way as when they install the hardware wallet. That's the main value of the business. And this is what I really like about this story. So we're removing everyone from the middle management, or middle layer, sorry. And then we're trying to make sure that we underwrite the user, not like old-fashioned underwriting. Is first, everybody is real, everybody is legit until proven otherwise. And we're going to monitor transactions, and we're going to understand, and not as Tangem, but as a payment business, before we say you are allowed or not allowed. It's very different approach. It's very modern approach. We're flipping the behavior. Rather than starting from you are guilty because you have cryptos. Awesome, you have cryptos. Great. Now you want to spend it. You're going to move into this spending account. That account, you go through KYC. That account, you get a card, and then you can spend from that account. And
so
this is separate from the Tangem anonymous hardware wallet. It's a separate story.
Okay, so that was my next question, was like, how would it work exactly? So I have a Tangem card, right? This is my Tangem card, and I have a Tangem app. Is the card connected to my wallet, my actual Tangem wallet, or how will it work exactly? Let's say I want to do a transaction.
Right now, you are basically going to get a notification. Hey, you are in one of the countries that we can issue cards. Click here to get your card. So because you are a hardware wallet user, you will be granted with the payment card. And then how does the payment card works? You have to go through the enrollment process of payment, which is basically name, passport. I mean, and by the way, just to be very, very, very clear here, we have two separate worlds. We have the hardware wallet world, and we have the payment world. Hardware wallet world is your vote, is your wealth. Payment world is regulated world, meaning the users will go through KYC in the payment story. Your hardware wallet has no KYC. There's no connection with the KYC. There's no connection with your phone number. So whatever wealth you have there, it's your wealth. If you move into the payment account, which sits in your app from Tangem, that account will have KYC. That account gets a digital card. And if you don't want to use the funds anymore, then you can move the funds back into your hardware wallet. So the way it works is like opening a checking account versus a savings account.
I need to move. Let's say I have like $100 of stable coin, and I need to move it to my other account, which is the payment account, which will work directly. Will it work directly with the card? Like if I tap the card, it works, or do I need to approve the transaction in any way?
No, it works. So that's the beauty. The password or the Face ID basically are the verification mechanisms for authorizing the transaction. So I'm going to show you. So here is, all the accounts, but if I click here,
Tangem Pay.
Oops, sorry. Here, Tangem Pay. Then you see the balance that I have, and then you can see the transactions. It's all inside of the app. For me to access the app, still I have the hardware wallet. It's still, but the payment is almost like
only Face ID.
Face ID. Face ID. I
not
do
even a PIN.
No. Face ID ready.
Okay. Yeah.
Hold near terminal or reader.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It makes sense because like imagine having to like bring this with you everywhere, and then like what if you have like a subscription online? Do you need to like click this every month to do that?
Just think as again, I'm always thinking parallel to a bank. You own $1 million. You don't keep $1 million in your spending account, in your checkings account. You keep 10,000, 5,000, 1,000, 500, whatever. And every time you need to put money to spend, you take it and you put it there.
So my Tangem card is my vault that I'm keeping my money in. And then whenever I want to pay, I just transfer whatever amount to the Tangem Pay account. And from what I understood, that will be mainly USDC. That is.
So then we go into where are we going? So where are we going? You won't need to spend. So multiple things. Number one, you won't need to move. You're simply gonna say every time I'm going low in balance, take money out of here, swap directly, and then put it in my spending balance. So I can authorize against your digital assets rather than authorizing against USDC. Obviously, we're going to have multi-currency, which is already old technology in this world. We don't need, the only reason is we're doing USDC is to test the product, but we're going to have local currencies because we want people to use it day-to-day. It makes no sense that you're in Kuwaiti and that you're going to have dollars for your day-to-day. Maybe yes, maybe no, but like a lot of people prefer to have local currency.
Of course.
So you have different functionalities that will come throughout the year. But the number one thing we wanted to make sure is, and I think, and we have a lot of people asking for the card, is the easiness to go from I made money in crypto, I have all my wealth in crypto, and I want to move into spending. And the other functionality that is coming in Q1, we're connecting to the financial rails. So if you're in the US, you get a stable account with ACH wire transfer. If you are in Brazil, you get a stable account with PIX transfer. What does that mean? You can pay with the card, or you can pay a rent by going from stable to the other, and the other party just receives fiat.
Yeah. So you're slowly adding more of the critical features required for someone to like actually use this in the real world.
Full banking. Pay your bills, grow your money, store your money, everything in the same place. Your hardware wallet is the key to sign and to access it. But it's not the key to spend your money. Spend your money is your Visa card.
Yeah.
You don't need to go into the hardware wallet and tap again and tap again. And there's no need. There is no actual need of that security, because if I am with my Face ID, that is sufficient. And it's not all my balance. It's a portion of my balance. And I don't want to KYC my entire wealth for whatever reason. But I do want to KYC for my spending balance, because I want to participate in the local economy. And that's the way we see it.
And this whole solution is like in-house that you guys are building. It's not like there's any other party involved in this.
So right now we do have partners, because we want to grow all over the world. So we are using a partner that give us the license to operate everywhere. Otherwise, we would require the license ourselves. Tangem is not in the licensing business. Tangem is in the technology business. And we're going to use providers of licenses. And we expect to use more and more our own technology. And again, always look at us as the wallet is an ecosystem. And we're going to plug in things from us and things from providers that we trust, because we can check if security standards and operating standards, live to our values. So we're creating our own community based on our own customer base. But our job is to hunt big fintechs and be similar to them.
Awesome. So in terms of the fees, like how does that look like using this card?
$1 equals to one USDC. So if I go in, zero fees. If I go in the US right now, I spend $20, it's $20. If I spend $100, $100. There's no 100 plus gas fee, 100 plus whatever fee. It's whatever balance you have in dollars, you're going to spend in dollars. And if you are in a country,
the critical part, like for me, like I've tested a few of the solutions in terms of like the Visa cards that I can get, and a lot of them they charge very, very aggressive fees, so that's why it doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like I'm not gonna use it. I'm losing. Using it.
At the end of the day, what do you want for a day-to-day? I want to replicate exactly the same as a local bank.
Yeah.
If a local bank, if you have 10 euros, you have 10 euros. You don't have like 9 euros and 87 cents. And after you use the card again, you lose another 10 cents or $2. It makes no sense. I want to make sure that it's one-to-one. When you are in a country that is not dollars, it's FX, and then the FX is Visa FX. So we don't put a margin on top of it, because so our job right now is to ensure that our customer base that holds crypto in the digital wallet or in the hardware wallet can move into the spending account and start spending. And the more they do it, the more global we become, the cheaper we can, become on the provider's level, which makes it, cheaper transactions, cheaper everything. So our job is to make sure that we are giving this full banking experience. That's what we're interested. But right now we make zero fees on top of the users. We will have subscription cards. We will have free cards where we're gonna make fees on top of it. But for now, is plain vanilla. We want the
Okay.
first
Yeah, that's
customers
good.
to, you know,
That's a
just
good
use it.
start. Yeah.
Yes,
So
like it, use it.
in terms of like, where are you guys operating in now? How long has it been? What's the feedback in general? Like, where are you guys at in this project?
We launched officially 2 weeks ago, and we are slowly releasing we have thousands of people in the waiting list from this product. In
Yeah.
fact, it was really crazy because only in the first day was like 20,000 or something, a crazy number of users asking to be in the joint waiting list. Sorry. So we are
How many
slowly.
people have? How many people have Tangem? Is this like information we know?
I don't know if it's public. I said it a couple of times. About 1 million
Okay. Yeah, that's
hardware
like
wallet,
a lot of people. Yeah.
and that's a lot of people. And
Yeah.
our team actually grows quite substantially on the number of users per month. So it's really like very aggressive in terms of making sure. Tangem is number one in Amazon these days in sales in the US.
For hardware wallet.
Uh, yeah, hardware wallet, and it's US is the number one country that uses Tangem these days, even though it's Swiss business. And second
Yeah.
is Europe. So
Yeah, I can tell you from my community, I talk about all the hardware wallets. I've used all of them. I covered them all. Nothing has been more popular than Tangem for most people to use. So I don't know what that means. It's just like my own statistics, I can tell you.
yes, I mean this is in general. I'm very happy, that Tangem exists because I've never seen the easiness to go inside of a hardware wallet. Like I used Ledger and before joining the Tangem story, it was so difficult.
Yeah.
And maybe because it's too fancy with the screens and everything, but
Yeah.
the card tapping, simple.
Yeah,
I
even
think
this one, like the new one, which is awesome in terms of like the tech itself, but in terms of using it, it's not like nearly half as easy even. Like there's much more steps involved into doing
it
a
feels for
transaction.
me it's for geeks, and I understand. Maybe like
Yeah.
very sophisticated
It's
users
nice.
want to
I
have this
like it
very
though.
fancy.
It's
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, the
that's the
screen.
point.
Look how satisfying this like click.
Exactly.
Everything there.
You know, I
But
think,
if I'm introducing someone new, I will tell them to use this, not
and this
this.
is what I love because
Yeah.
I think there's 5 million people in the world that might be able to buy that, but there are 8 billion that understand card.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the Tangem story. Like everyone can put a card in the back of a phone. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a super
Exactly.
straightforward story. And what made our payment product so nice is because it's exactly the same concept. You don't have 50 functionalities. You don't have yet 50 stables. You don't have all this
Yeah.
complex, swap this. It's one network,
Yeah.
one stable, but it will function super, like no gas fees.
Yeah. Like
It's
you want to
no
make it
fees on top of it.
as simple as and easy as possible, and then you can add more options later.
And then once you like it, then I want more. Okay, then let's do more. When you do more, then you
Yeah.
can charge more, and you can, but that's different. I still want that
Yeah.
relationship with the user that says, "Come in. It is the same as my bank account for your day-to-day transactions." That's it. That's what I want. To the degree that I will launch a product in January, that everybody's going to be very, it's going to be a very
Excited
interesting
about.
product. Well,
Like
I
Tangem
think the whole
related or
world is going to
not
talk about
Tangem
it. Tangem
related?
Pay, Tangem Pay. Tangem Pay is going to launch
Okay.
a product that the world is going to be very controversial. And at the same
Mhm.
time, I think the world is going to first, you know, go crazy excited about it. People will criticize it. But I think at the end of the day, they will understand why we are the day-to-day guys. We are the simplicity guys.
Yeah.
And that's what we care. So I think that is going to basically talk a lot about us and the most secure. Don't
Mm.
like judge us on everything, but security, don't try it.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to ask you again, because before we record, you said Tangem is the most secure hardware wallet, right?
Yes.
And I think that's interesting to hear your like explanation for the audience, because like many people might have different takes on this. So why would you say that? Like, how would you
I
explain
mean,
it?
the entire point of Tangem, this very nice hardware that you have in your hand. When you look at
Yeah,
it, very nice fancy clothes. Who
yeah,
produces?
black and
How
white.
many
Like,
parties? How many parties
yeah,
are involved in the creation of that product, and how
yeah,
many countries, how many parts, and then how are you so certain that this hardware wallet is not vulnerable?
right.
And the difference with Tangem is we have a patent, we have patent on the creation of the sim, we have a
Mm-hmm.
horizontal production where we are the owners of everything that happens in this horizontal area, where we're not working with third-party providers, expecting that their whatever piece or element functions in our story. I mean, yes, we buy antenna and card and we print from a generic card manufacturer, but the security sits in the sim, and we have
Mm-hmm.
patents to run the wallet as we run today. We have actually 3 patents within Tangem. So
Mm-hmm.
like it's not supposed to be fancy. It's supposed to be secure, and that compared to any other, I mean, and plus the certifications. I encourage everyone in the audience using one of these AI
Mm-hmm.
tools, Manus, ChatGPT, and say, please compare all hardware wallets in the world, and then they're gonna say whatever, and then you say, can you please tell me why Tangem is more secure than the rest? They're going to go into certifications. They're going to go into details around the technology of Tangem. But I think there's one addition step that should be in the chat GPTs of this world, which is we're not using multiple parties to put multiple parts together to create another little machine. We
Mm-hmm.
have our own end-to-end SIM and hardware wallet.
Yeah. So your main point is this: the simplicity of the product and the level of like control that you have in terms of what goes into it. Like, you guys make the sim, you guys have a simple product, so it's hard for anything to go wrong. You mean, like, it's just like logically.
Yes, exactly. So for me
Mm.
is the more parties touching, the less guarantee of security, the more
Mm-hmm.
simple, the more secure. And you can only hear people saying, I'm with a lot of confidence it's secure, but not necessarily.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to buy the card, they can buy it from the link that will be in the description, with a great discount that you guys have given us here, with the Black
Yes.
Friday deal and the discount that I already had. So it's a steal. Like, I've never seen it at these prices, honestly. So like, this is a fantastic deal. In terms of the Tangem Pay, right now what people can do is just like register their interest, right, in this wait
Yeah.
list.
Well, let me give the precise steps here because we are already
Uh-huh.
releasing cards to the people in the waiting list. I
Okay.
expect to release the Beast 15th of December. We're using more like a beta customers right now. people that are more, sophisticated in crypto, just to make sure that we have seen everything before we go fully out everywhere. Because different than most cards, we're launching in 90 countries at once, which makes it very complex, multiple languages, multiple customer support issues that we're considering. So I just want to make sure that before we just say go ahead and get it, because it's simple download. It's not something that you need to wait like the physical card. But I expect mid-December to be no way back.
Fully launched?
No way back.
So let's say by January, because like these things always get delayed for whatever reason, even though you're like pretty sure.
My 15th December is already my delayed official is 27th of November, but let's see.
I'm gonna say January. By January,
perfect.
Everyone should be able to just receive. Will they receive like an invitation in the email for their joining the waitlist, or
so if you are
to directly sign up?
If you're on the waiting list, your app is gonna pop up.
Okay.
Like if you subscribe from your app, or I think sorry, actually it's the opposite. If everybody in the world that have an app, it will pop up. And if you have join the waiting list, then it will be your email that gets a notification. But the app is just going to be like saying the Tangem Pay is ready for you to download, but the waiting list starts first, no matter what. So we're going from
I would encourage
5,000
people to sign up to the waiting list at this time.
That is the guaranteed people that gets first. And then after that, then everybody gets. Because we are considering the waiting list the people that are mostly interested on us.
The people who are your, let's say, beta.
users. And like that truly are in need of such solution. So, and I want to hear from them if this actually solves their life. But I want them to come from the fact that this is not supposed to be, again, another go crazy swap and do this and do a bunch of sophistications. It's a very simple instrument for your day-to-day. And we are going to evolve into more stuff as we progress. But for now, I want to make sure that simplicity comes first.
Awesome. I like the vision that you have. I hope that it works out in terms of like your launch and that it goes smoothly.
It already did. It already did.
Awesome.
No, because there is no way back, Mohammed. There is no way back. If we launched, it's because it's the basics are good, and that's the way I look at it. Yes.
That's awesome. One final question for you, and let's end this interview with this. So, like we discussed the whole, role of this new technology, payments, its importance, its significance to what's happening in the world. I just want to hear from you, like, what's your best estimate of a timeline in terms of when this vision might come to reality? Not in terms of just Tangem or anything we discussed, but I mean the broader idea where you're talking about how everyone will need to realize this solution at some point. So does this happen in the next 5 years, or do you think this is more long term? Your best guess.
Every bank, I think it's a good one for us to revisit in 5 years' time, but every bank will have at least one blockchain product, solution, access, account, whatever, within 5 years. That's my bold statement, because in the worst case scenario, the partnership between Swift and Ethereum will make every bank, now use an alternative channel. And I think that is a huge push. In this, the cost savings on global GDPs. I'm thinking GBP. GDP is so big for the production cost of a country is massively impacted by the inefficiency of the capital movement. Access to, finance and money movement reduces the scalability of an economy. So the easier it is to distribute, the easier it is to access it, the less riskier, the more the country can produce, or the faster the country can grow. And I think we have reached that peak where it's already proven to be cheaper. And now it's just more like, how can we massively adopt
Scale
it?
this.
Yeah, exactly. So I truly encourage the B2B providers to start thinking about this, because it's already here. I mean, Tangem is serving a tribe, and hopefully this tribe, start bringing more members to it. But I honestly expect us to be, next generation Revolut. I think Revolut is, just being the normal bank or new bank, those neobanks that are just traditional banking with funny interface.
With a good design.
Exactly. But I do expect us, because everything starts from security, and we were born with that DNA. And that's, do whatever you want, but you cannot be as safe as we are. And then having the funny interface, that we can always adjust over time. I think it will take us time to mature this, but the amount of connections and products we're bringing in, it will enable banking in 1 year time, like regulars would do in regular bank. And then you're going to have more and more sophistication, more and more evolution. But in 1 year, I expect us to be very competitive.
Well, Marcos, thank you very much for coming on today. I appreciate you giving us the time. And I, hope everyone gets a chance to sign up to the waitlist and to try it out. And maybe in few months, once your big other announcement, I didn't forget about this, in January, maybe in a few months we can have you back to discuss that once it's more out there, and also once Tangem Pay starts to be used more, and we can discuss how it's going. But overall, I think this has been a great interview, and I'd like to thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you very much. Apologies for speaking so much that it took a lot more time than we initially planned. But I would love to see your audience downloading the card and playing with the cards, and then giving us feedback and what they truly like, what they dislike, what they're missing, so we can actually make something stronger out of it. And I definitely want to make sure that, if people like you that use the product, that loves the product, that for your audience, we always have something special. So I'm definitely going to work on something for you guys. And I think that's my way of being thankful.
There is a little giveaway. I asked the guy I was talking to, I told him for a giveaway. So we'll announce that as well. But if you can get us a better deal or anything cool for the community, I'd appreciate it.
I think it's always important that the community, because what makes us stronger is the community. And this product is for the community. So I definitely want to make sure that I can work out something for the community as well.
Awesome. That'll be great. And I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you, Mohammed. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone.